So you announced plans to add 2,300 new homes by the end of the year. Are you on target for this? And how do you view pushbacks from members of your community in regards to property acquisition?
The short answer is we're having huge challenges in getting projects that we've approved actually under construction. And the challenges are primarily around financing. And so the challenges the builders have, even if when they get the city approval to go ahead, is they have to go out to financial markets and lend, or borrow rather, and seek equity investment from folks who are looking for a rate of return. And if they don't meet their hurdle rate, then they don't get financing and they can't build. So bluntly, we're not meeting many of our goals around market rate housing. And we know market rate housing helps to pay fees to help us build more affordable and rent restricted housing. So it affects the entire effort. I expect housing production is going to be down. The pandemic has not helped with supply chain issues. They've also driven up costs. So what we've really tried to do is just find more creative ways to get housing built at lower costs. And so we think about, for example, what we're trying to do for our unhoused residents. We passed bonds, we've passed all kinds of measures to try to build housing the old way, again, at the $800,000 a unit and taking 4 or 5 years to build a single project. Clearly, that's not a great way to address a crisis if that's all you're relying on. We need to rely on that and much more. And so what we've been really digging deep on is, things like motel conversions, which we started back in 2015 before Gavin Newsom and the state really took it on, which is great. They're now funding, and building prefabricated modular housing, what I call quick build apartments, which we're able to build at a small fraction, $100,000 a unit, and we can build in a matter of 4 or 5 months rather than 4 or 5 years. So we've been able to build 3 of those projects during the pandemic very quickly. We've got 2 more under construction in the next few weeks, and we hope to have 1,000 of those units built or under construction by the next year. That's going to really help address some of the acute challenges we have around homelessness, but obviously a lot more needs to be done across the spectrum.
The latter part was, how do you deal with, pushback? I know part of Project Room Key and now the second iteration with Home Key has been looking at the acquisitions of empty properties or repurposing, but there has been pushback in the community regarding like hotels and other property acquisitions. So how do you deal with pushback, and what's like the messaging, or when do you decide that, you have to consider issues that people have in the community versus where do you go ahead? So what's your response to that and general NIMBYism?
Yeah, the short answer is my job as mayor is to stand in a room with 300 really unhappy neighbors who tell me that they think that this project, whatever the project might be, if it's affordable, if it's for homeless, this project should be built anywhere else in the city except in their neighborhood or near their neighborhood. And those very unhappy conversations are conversations I have with some frequency. And the hope is that if you've got a council that doesn't have wobbly knees, and you've got a local council member who's got some backbone, you can still get projects built. But the reality is you're never, ever going to make a local neighborhood feel great about building housing for unhoused residents. On the other hand, what we have seen remarkably, and I wish the media covered this more, is those communities that have really embraced projects. Like, for example, we had a recent project on 2nd Street near St. James Park, where the downtown community really rallied behind it. A great nonprofit by the name of Path is managing the project. And I think the downtown residents got it, because they recognize if we don't house our homeless residents, they're still in our neighborhood, they're just unhoused. And obviously, as we're able to demonstrate to people that clearly getting people housed is preferred to having the same individuals living in our creeks and our parks, when people get that, we're able to actually move to yes. Bluntly, the pandemic has helped to some extent. Some of the dollars that we're able to get from the state now have what we call CEQA waivers. And if we have waivers of that CEQA process, it enables us to move forward without dealing with lawsuits, which inevitably get thrown out anyway. It just takes 4 or 5 years of process to get there. So if we can eliminate some of that red tape and really get down to brass tacks and talk to community members about, look, what are you most concerned about? Let's talk about the safety issues. Let's talk about issues you have around traffic, parking, whatever it might be, and let's deal with those. Then we can have much more productive conversations rather than dealing with lawsuits.